Good evening and welcome to our Wednesday night Bible study. Tonight we're in the book of Judges once again, and tonight we're studying the most familiar part of the book of Judges, and that is the storyline of Samson. So we're in Judges chapter 13. Samson's storyline goes through chapter 13, 14, and 15. So we'll be looking at the next three chapters over the next several weeks. So again, chapter 13, the book of Judges. And as we begin, we're going to first of all look at verses 1 through 5. But this is the sixth cycle of disobedience, which leads to 40 years of oppression at the hand of the Philistines for the Israelites. In this, God uses Samson to save Israel from the Philistines, and we know the storyline. But when most people read the storyline and we tell our children about Samson and his great strength and what he did, really, Samson's life is really a tragic life. His leadership was marked by moral and spiritual failures, as much as he was a military success. You could say that Samson despised his heritage, as we'll be looking at. Also, I want you to notice that in these 40 years, and in the beginning of this text, that the Israelites didn't cry out for being in bondage at this point in time. The Lord, in His mercy, sends Samson to help them. But at this point in time, in these 40 years of oppression, they didn't cry out to the Lord. Maybe because they are getting used to this cycle, and now it's almost become a norm that this is the way life is supposed to be. I don't know. But we do notice that in this section that the Israelites did not cry out to the Lord for help. God in His mercy sends help through Samson. Again, Samson is really a tragic storyline because he could have been used so much for the Lord. He was from before he was born dedicated to serve God through his parents, and we'll look at that in just a few moments. But he, if you will, despised his heritage, didn't like being a Nazarite, or whatever the things that went on in his life. We'll see and take notice of his attitude and his way of life, and how he could have done great things for the Lord, but he didn't. So let's start out with chapter 13, verse 1, the first 5 verses of Judges chapter 13. And Samson went down, wrong chapter. That was chapter 14. Chapter 13. And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord delivered them into the hands of the Philistines 40 years. And there was a certain man of Zorah, the family of Dantes, whose name was Manoah, and his wife was barren and bare not. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto the woman, and said unto her, Behold, now thou art barren, and bearest not, but thou shalt conceive and bear a son. Now therefore beware, I pray thee, and drink not wine, nor strong drink, and eat not unclean thing. For lo, thou shalt conceive and bear a son, and no razor shall come on his head. For the child shall be a Nazarite unto God from the womb, and he shall begin to deliver Israel out of the hand of the Philistines. Now, this is really the second time. If you notice, the first time where the angel of the Lord came and told someone that they were going to have a special birth. And the first one we know is that we read in the New Testament is Mary about Jesus. Here we see that this woman was barren, and God is telling her she is going to bear a son, and that she herself is not to drink strong drink, because the child from the womb is going to be a Nazarite. So now she was not even supposed to drink strong drink, which is part of that Nazarite vow, and we'll touch bases on that in a few moments. But notice verse 1 again, that the Israelites did evil in the sight of the Lord again. Now, because of this, they were handed over to the Philistines for 40 years. Okay, so now during this 40-year period that they're enslaved, if you will, or being depressed by the Philistines. So the cycle again has started. The cycle of sin, judgment, and repentance. The Israelites would not turn to God. And notice after chapter before these, they never would turn to God until they had been hit by suffering, oppression, and even death. And this was not caused, listen, this is not caused by God. Depression, suffering, and death is not caused by God, but it's the result of the people ignoring God. Amen. So the warning in God's word are still clear for us today. If we continue to harden our hearts against God, we can expect the same fate as Israel did. And people, all we got to do is look at the world around us today. How this world, how this country that was founded on biblical basis and biblical understanding and biblical teachings, that how the United States is turning from God. And we're going to be judged more and more and more until the people finally cry out, enough is enough. And until that happens, well, and the way things going, who knows, God may come back before that happens. Amen. And so the warning is there. If we continue to harden our hearts against God, we can expect the same fate as Israel did. And all we got to do is look back over in Revelation, everything that's going to come about, and the warnings that are coming about. The days of Noah, when God destroyed the earth with a flood. The things that went on during Noah's time is happening today. So people, not to scare you, but Christ could come back at any moment. Amen. And any time. We better be ready. We better Amen. Be ready. I want you to note verse 5, if you will, if you don't mind. Excuse me. Verse 5. Samson was to be a Nazirite, a person set apart for God's service from the woman's womb. The angel of the Lord said that you're going to have a child and he's going to be a Nazirite. So God is going to use Samson and letting her know from the very beginning that he's going to be used for a special service. Now, his parents made this vow that we will do this. They could have rejected it. But, you know, it's funny how I was getting ready to think, you know, how can people reject God when God speaks to them, but they do it every day. God's word speaks to people every day, and they still reject God. But the parents made this vow for Samson before he was even born. They agreed with the angel of the Lord, and they vowed to dedicate him to a Nazirite. And a Nazirite vow was sometimes temporary. It could be a week, it could be a year. But in Samson's case, it was for a lifetime. Okay, a lifetime. As a Nazirite, Samson was forbidden to cut his hair, touch any dead body, human or animal, okay, or to drink anything from the vine, any alcohol. Those three things were the major issues about a Nazirite vow. Not to cut your hair, not to touch any dead body, and to drink no alcohol. Anything, no grapes, couldn't eat grapes because it was from the fruit of the vine. But technically it was saying any strong drink, anything the grapes turning into wine. But so that was a Nazirite vow. Now Samson, his life, he used poor judgment and he sinned constantly. He also accomplished many things as long as he was dedicated. As we read and study him, you'll see him jumping from one thing to another. As long as he was dedicated to be set apart for God, he accomplished great things. And this is a clear example of Israel. Okay, as long as they were set apart for God, the nation thrived. But as we see in the book of Judges, up and down, up and down. But when they ignore God, they fell back into sin. And again, this is the same for every Christian out there. That as long if we ignore God, if our nation ignore God, we're going to fall into sin and disparity, and judgment's coming. So the book of Judges is really a good book to be studying in the times that we're facing today. It shows you what happens when people turn against the Lord. So chapter 13, I'm going to explain. Chapter 13 is really all about the birth of Samson. Okay, so let's look at Samson's parents. Verse 6 through the rest of the chapter, through 6 through 25. As we read this text, I want you to notice that his parents were a praying people who believed in God and wanted what was best for their child, like most parents do. But God answered their prayers in giving them a child. But Samson was before they had to raise him, so they had to raise him in the right way. And this was their biggest concern. We'll see this in verse 8, where they went and asked the angel of the Lord, how are we supposed to raise his children? Give us some guidelines, okay? So let's go actually verses 1 through verses 1 through 8, and we'll stop there. 6 through 8, excuse me. Might even go a little bit further. Apologize. Verse 6, then the woman came and told her husband, saying, a man of God came unto me, and his countenance was like the countenance of an angel of God, very terrible. But I asked him not whence he was, neither told he me his name. But he said unto me, behold, thou shalt conceive and bear a son, and thou drink no wine, nor strong drink, neither eat any unclean thing, for the child shall be a Nazarite to God, from the womb to the day of his death. Then Manoah entreated the Lord, and said, O my Lord, let the man of God which thou didst send come again unto us, and teach us what we shall do unto the child that shall be born. And God hearkened unto the voice of Manoah, and the angel of God came again unto the woman as she sat in the field. But Noah, her husband, was not with her. And the woman made haste and ran and showed her husband, and said unto him, behold, the man hath appeared unto me that come unto me the other day. And Manoah arose and went after his wife, and came to the man, and said unto him, art thou the man that speakest unto the woman? And he said, I am. And Manoah said, now let thy words come to pass. How shall we order the child, and how shall we do unto him? And the angel of the Lord said unto Manoah, of all that I said unto the woman, let her beware. She may not eat of anything that cometh of the vine, neither let her drink wine or strong drink, nor eat any unclean thing. All that I command her, let her observe. Excuse me. And Manoah said unto the angel of the Lord, I pray thee, let us detain thee until we shall have made ready a kid for thee. And the angel of the Lord said unto Manoah, though thou detain me, I will not eat of thy bread. And if thou wilt offer a burnt offering, thou must offer it unto the Lord. For Manoah knew not that he was an angel of the Lord. And Manoah said unto the angel of the Lord, what is thy name? That we may, that when thy saying come to pass, we may do thee honor. And the angel of the Lord said unto him, why askest thou thus after my name, seeing it is secret? So Manoah took a kid with a meat offering, and offered it on a rock unto the Lord, and the angel did wondrously, and Manoah his wife looked on. For it came to pass, when the flame went up toward heaven from off the altar, the angel of the Lord ascended in the flame of the altar. And Manoah and his wife looked on it, and fell on their faces to the ground. But the angel of the Lord did no more appear unto Manoah and to his wife. Then Manoah knew that he was an angel of the Lord. And Manoah said unto his wife, We surely should, Manoah said unto his wife, we shall surely die because we have seen God. But his wife said unto him, if the Lord were pleased to kill us, he would not have received a burnt offering and a meat offering at our hands. Neither would he have showed us all the things, nor as at this time told us such things as these. And the woman bare a son, and called his name Samson. And the child grew, and the Lord blessed him. And the Spirit of the Lord began to move him at times in the camp at Dan between Zorah and Eshtaol. Excuse me. Samson is born, he grows, and we see that the Lord starts working with him. But I want you to notice in verse 8, again, their biggest concern was how to raise their child that was to be given to God. Now, all parents seek the Lord, not all. Godly parents seek the Lord for instructions. Let me put it that way. Godly parents seek the Lord for instructions on how to raise their children, even though it's not an easy task as people think. Every young parent thinks they got it until they have a child, and then things change. And they know nothing about raising children. I don't care if you're a Christian, you try to do the best you can. The Bible teaches us to train up a child in the way they should go, and when they are old they will not depart from it. Proverbs 22:6. Now this training incorporates every part of a child's life. As children, on how to respect their parents, teens, young men and women, adults, in every aspect of life. Parents are to train their children in this under God's way. And we see that Samson was not a very respectful man, as we'll see here shortly, to his parents. Well, here's where I was talking about looking at the character of Samson. He was disrespectful to his parents. He was arrogant, boastful, demanding, seeking only his desires, which ultimately caused his death. Okay? But we see how godly his parents were. They were actually seeking the Lord, trying to find out how to raise their children, in which we all should do. So basically that's chapter 13 about the birth of Samson. And we see in the last verse, excuse me, we see in the last verse again that Samson is born and is raised. He's a grown man when we start chapter 14. And God starts to move on him and starts doing great things in Samson's life. Again, Samson, why he became this way, maybe his parents enabled him, catered to him, gave him everything, thinking he's special in God's eyes. So, you know, they talk about being spoiled brats. Samson was a spoiled brat. His parents probably gave him everything, and like I said, catered to him because he's special. They knew it from birth. In which this is not the way we should raise children. They should learn from their mistakes. And by enabling our children, we don't teach them how to handle troubled times. And unfortunately, the generations that is coming about, everything's being given to them, and it's our fault. We are reaping what we have sowed in our children, who do not respect parents, elders, God, and they think they can have everything they want now and not have to work for it. And all we have to do is look at the world around us today and the way things are going. But Samson was special. God was going to use him, but how much more he could have been used for God. But his character was not that of a godly man in all respects. God used him. I guess God can use anybody to do his will and his bidding. And God in his ultimate wisdom uses Samson here to help his people out, to deliver them from the Philistines. Again, Samson, we talk about his strength and all the great things he did, but again, he was very arrogant, he was boastful, demanding, Again, he saw only his selfish desires many times, which ultimately caused him his death. So this is about this chapter 13 is all about the birth of Samson. And so chapter 14 we'll see more of his character as and how God can even use Samson, who was not that of a good of a man, but God still used him in a mighty way. Until we meet again next Wednesday night, and hopefully see you Sunday morning for our Sunday morning service. God bless.